Welcome back to the post show. I am Keith. Wow, what a crazy transition that was. Thank you so much for joining me. I can see that I still have Freddie. Thank you so much for staying. I still see Tony. I see TVJ. So I appreciate you guys sticking around. I thought about only doing the live show. If it wasn't NAB week, I would have only done the live show. So let me know, guys, that everything sounds good. The audio looks good. I'm on my regular microphone in the regular set. No, I do not have the TV on behind me. With Matt's body heat and my body heat in here, we did not need anything else to heat things up. In fact, I'd love to turn those lights off, which I'm going to do. I do have lots of remotes. And so we're going to shut off these back lights and cut down a little bit of the heat tonight. But thank you so much for joining me. We're not going to have a long post show, but I do want to talk about what was just announced from Blackmagic Design. And I'm hoping to maybe talk a little bit about these new consoles. I think I had the web page up, but getting ready to go live tonight, it looks like I closed it. So let's bring up Blackmagic Design. And if you're like me, and I know Freddie and I have been emailing back and forth, and he's been staying on top of what's going on, even has sent me links. So thank you so much, Freddie. Let me go ahead and put some chat up here. I think I have chat working. Yeah, there's my welcome. Freddie says he's ready for the post show. Should be a good conversation from Tony. Thanks for staying, Tony. And Freddie says, I agree. TVJ says, I'm looking forward to a conversation. I am too. And I need these kind of conversations to process. I wish we were just having a Zoom call and not doing a live stream, but maybe in the future, those of you that join me every week, instead of doing a post show, maybe we'll actually do a Zoom call together. That would be a lot of fun. We have the perfect combo of folks here. I agree with that, Tony. TVJ, how big is your studio? My studio right here is like 11 by 11, I think 11 by 10 and a half. It's a bedroom in my house. It was a man cave. I had a recliner chair here, lift chair for my father-in-law, one in the middle for me, and on the far side, one that didn't have a lift in it. That's still in my house. It's in my bedroom. It's a reading chair. But this was a man cave, and I had my JBL system on that wall on both sides of the TV, and I was just in here playing Xbox, chilling. And then obviously I was doing a little live streaming from my bedroom, and then because of a number of things happening in our world, we decided to move that out of the bedroom, take over the man cave, and I can still sit in here and play Xbox if I want to on the big TV. But that is a great question. And we save those mostly for the post show. So thank you, Freddie, for letting me know. Audio and video is great. Good to see you, David. You're the right person to have here as well to have this conversation about the Blackmagic Design announcement. Now, they've made a number of announcements. I'm going to focus in on two announcements. One they did a video on, which we've already touched base, and that's the HyperDeck Shuttle HD. And I'm going to give you some, if we have time tonight, a little more insight into what I think is happening with that device. I've had a little bit more time to process since last Tuesday's live, and that video is literally blowing up. So it's great to have you here, David, all the way from Australia. And then again, Tony says audio and video is great. And then Lieutenant A.K. Allen is here. And he says, what compelled you to get the new HyperDeck Shuttle? I'm on the fence. And then got to say something real quick. That's my son, Christopher. So it's great to see you. Christopher, we had Matt on the live show. This is the post show, but it's good to have you here. Christopher, my son, is on the live tonight. So that is great to see you. So back to this question. I'll address that now. We'll talk a little bit more about it later. But Lieutenant A.K. Allen is saying, hi, I'm here also. What compelled you to get the new HyperDeck Shuttle? I'm on the fence. Well, here's the story. If you know anything about my channel, I have always felt like there was limited information out there in the world of YouTube and the world of broadcasting, both at home and broadcasting other places, that you can learn about the HyperDecks, especially those of us that were using the HyperDeck Studio Mini. And then now people are using the HyperDeck Studio HD, the Studio HD Plus like I have now. And then now Blackmagic Design announces the Shuttle. And so what compelled me was I've never seen a live video take off so quickly as last week's live video. So $495 for me, which was one of the biggest reasons I was on the fence. And some of you would agree with that. And I even talked to some of you via email about the price. And even the fact that it doesn't do a lot of the things that I was hoping that if they ever did anything like that, and it wasn't even really on my radar. What wasn't on my radar was a desktop version that could sit right next to extreme ISO and extreme and look just like it. It still looks good next to a ATEM Mini, ATEM Mini Pro, ATEM Mini Pro ISO, but it's the form factor of the extreme and extreme ISO. And I actually reached out to Aaron Parecki, and if you haven't been to his channel, go check it out. He's at NAB right now. And has had some live things go on today. I missed him today, but I watched him the last couple days. But I'll say this, I asked him if he would make a HyperDeck stand that would hook up next to his stands that he makes for the ATEM Mini Pro, Pro ISO, the YOLO box, the extreme ISO. And he just never decided to do that because I wanted to be able to have it, fit on a desk. And so I used some door stops to prop mine up so it matches my ATEM Mini Pro, which also has door stops under it, the rubber ones. I also have door stops under my extreme ISO. And I also actually have door stops tilting up this way, my HyperDeck Studio Mini and my HyperDeck Studio HD Plus. And so everything's nice on my desk, and I kind of gave up with the whole concept. The other compelling thing for me about that device, and this is all I'm going to say about it, unless you guys have more questions for tonight, is the fact that who would have thought they would do a desktop version? And one of the things I wish I had on my HD Plus was the bigger knob. They have a nicer knob if you buy the two higher end models that they released last July. And it's a little bit nicer knob. It's got better insides. It's more intuitive, and you're using it all the time when you're editing and video and forward and back, queuing things or testing videos, as well as going through the menu system. And then the fact that it has a teleprompter built into it, I thought that might be pretty interesting because I could put some bullet notes on another monitor for me using that device. And so I may just use it as a teleprompter. And it's a very expensive teleprompter if you think about it, but I just like the integration. And it may become my primary video playback device while I use my other two HyperDecks to do stingers and to do other graphics. And by the way, I have a stinger macro video coming out very soon that I'm doing also for a client as well as for the channel. So make sure you check that out. And again, at 6:30 tonight, approximately 6:30, my new video on the ATEM Mini Pro getting started will be released. It's an hour and 20 minutes long. It's as in-depth as any video I have done except for my HyperDeck HD Plus series. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that, and also share it with other people that you meet that are struggling to know how to use their ATEM Mini Pro. And a lot of what I taught applies to the Mini and the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, and I even opened it up by talking about the difference of those three devices so people realize that some of the buttons will be missing on the ATEM Mini that are on the ATEM Mini Pro and the ATEM Mini Pro ISO. I have a Pro in my studio. I use it every live stream. I use it every time I record in here because I'm using it as more inputs. In fact, that's what brings my chat on the screen. So that is a great thing to talk about. But let's get on to the show tonight, and that is talking about these new devices. So let me bring up Blackmagic Design's website here, and I think I'm just going to go to this. So let's go to me and the desktop. And here you go. So ATEM Constellation HD, what are they? Well, if you have been around this channel or Aaron Parecki's channel or John Barker, all of those guys that are out there that have been really helping promote the ATEM Mini, I've spent a lot of time helping promote the HyperDecks just because I believe that because of its integration, it's a great tool. we were kind of blown away, right? All of us, when the ATEM Mini came out. It came out before I really dove into live streaming. I was using my Cam Link, which is right here, and I was broadcasting from OBS. This will convert my HDMI from my camera to USB 2.0, I think, or 3. I can't remember. Blue, I think, is 2.0. And I was using that in OBS, and I was really getting good at OBS. I could do slideshows. I could play video clips all through OBS, and it's a great tool. It's gotten better and better since I was using it over 2.5 years ago. But as things changed in the world, and I realized that my business that I had been planning on launching had already launched, that I may be doing a lot of consulting and a lot of training. And I have a lot of connections in some of the venues because of my mastering experience and my recording studio, as well as some of the video stuff that I was already doing back in the day, as well as the changes that were going on in my life already because of being a content manager and encouraging people that they can do things with their phone they can't even imagine for their business, that you could not have done anywhere near this without spending approximately $10,000 to do everything you could do with a phone 10 years ago or 15 years ago, because it'll shoot 4K, it'll do slow-mo, all kinds of things that you can do. And I have 3 different lenses on my iPhone. So the technology is changing, and it's changed in the live streaming world. Blackmagic Design surprised us with the ATEM Mini. For the cost of an ATEM Mini, you had 4 inputs. They were automatically being able to convert whatever you put in it. And that's not even true with some of the consoles that they had, as well as the rack mount switchers that they had. So to offer that in the ATEM Mini and then come out with the ATEM Mini Pro and offer encoding and streaming and recording the program out was mind-boggling. And I bought an ATEM Mini Pro right about the time I was finishing my research on the ATEM Mini and trying to figure out, okay, I would use it as a webcam, have 4 cameras. One of them would be my laptop. One of them would be an overhead camera, and the third would be a different angle, and my primary camera. And I was going to use the ATEM Mini as my tool to produce my show, bring it in the USB-C input into my PC, and then use it as a webcam because it will do a 1080p webcam. And so I was really excited about that. Back in those days, the YOLO box, when it was released, it was another option for people to be more portable, but I was going to be broadcasting right here in the house. And so little did I know, all of a sudden, I was going to be able to start broadcasting directly from my ATEM Mini Pro. And I bought it before the ISO was released. I didn't even know that ISO recording could even be a thing in a device that small. And if you don't know what ISO recording is, that means you can record not just the program out in the ATEM Mini. And what you do is you just plug one of these drives in. This is one of the ones that works with the ATEM Mini Pro, the Pro ISO, the Extreme ISO. You just plug this into the USB-C, and this is actually USB-C, and I can record directly to this. And I didn't record tonight because it was just one more thing. So again, having the ability to record and then record all of the inputs, because that's what the ISOs will do. Now I have an Extreme ISO in my studio, so when I'm making my videos, I will hit record in that and record all my cameras. And if I change the settings and make them a little different than what I do when I'm live streaming, which is I stream it high, I can record at HyperDeck High, which is a very, very uncompressed file. They're very large. They take up a lot of space. And but yet you can color correct that a lot easier than you can these files right now that are going up to YouTube, because it's just streaming at high, which is about 6 megabytes a second. And if we turn this monitor around, you'll be able to see on that monitor tonight that I'm on the air. And right now I'm at 3.64. And it really just depends on the quality you're streaming at. But and that's as low as I've seen it in a long time. So it's probably because I have that static image right there and I'm only taking up this much of the frame that would probably go up if I cut back to my main camera. So let's do that real quick and let's see if it pops up there. And yeah, there it goes all the way up. So again, the quality can go up even higher. So what are these devices? These are rack mounted advancements, not to the level that I hoped, but they are advancements. So let's go through here. You can get into the first one for $995 US, what it says right on their website. And as you go down here and look at the specs, let's actually click on that and go to that page. If you go to the Constellation HD page, you're going to be able to see what they can do. So you have the introduction of the Constellation HD, the world's most powerful HD live production switchers. These incredible, powerful HD switchers are available in 3 models, which you saw on the picture, and including the 1ME model with 10 inputs, 2 MEs, and with 20 inputs of then a 20 input with a massive 4 MEs, and then you have 40 inputs plus each SDI input features a full standard converter. ATEM Constellation includes advanced features such as DVEs, ATEM advanced chroma keyers, media players, multi-view, and SuperSource processors, plus the built-in Fairlight audio mixer. So what you're going to find as you look and do your research on these devices, it's just like when they released the ATEM Mini. The first device has 10 inputs, but it doesn't have SuperSource unless I read it wrong. And it also will do actually playing. So one of the things that we've been wondering about the ATEM Mini Extreme and Extreme ISO is, what's the stinger button? That stinger button really is designed to be able to play a certain amount of frames. So you could play, you could play a bug, you could play a lower thirds, and you could play it for as many frames as you have the capability of doing that. And if you read into the fine print, you're going to find out that you have that potential now to be able to play these mini videos. So if all you want to do is play a stinger, then you're going to be able to do that if you get one of these devices. Of course, they're SDI inputs and SDI outputs. And so that means converters. If you want to continue trying to record 8 of those inputs into your Extreme as your main recorder or your ISO recording. And I could see how you could take the 8-channel if you wanted to and get it and bring it into another device, but in reality, it missed the mark for me in a number of ways, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But they have made some advancements in the audio. They've obviously made advancements because the technology's changed since they released their other devices. But they are only HD, and they just add more and more inputs and outputs, and even more features as you go up the chain, and you're going to actually pay for that increased features. But they do not record, and they do not stream, and they don't encode, and they don't ISO record. So if you want to ISO record, again, unless I'm mistaken, you're going to have a way of recording all those inputs coming in from the cameras, either in a camera, right? Or in a HyperDeck like many broadcast companies do. And you're going to have to come out of it and go into like a Web Presenter HD to be able to present out there. You have to go into a HyperDeck to record. And I just installed a Web Presenter HD and a HyperDeck Studio HD in a local venue or a venue up in Spokane, because they have a console that doesn't encode or record. And so our solution there was to send that signal into the Web Presenter HD and then also loop out of that and record it in the HyperDeck. And then that goes out to the internet. They broadcast from their Web Presenter HD, and it's been working pretty good. They had a little bit of lip sync issues, but we adjusted that, as well as some audio level issues, because you can't adjust audio in the Web Presenter HD. You have great audio information, but you can't make any volume adjustments. So whatever you have coming down that HDMI cable going into that Web Presenter HD is whatever the audio is going to be. So keep that in mind if you are going to do that. So lots of cool things, advancements in audio. And so I would be interested in what you guys have to say about this. And I see lots of chat. So let's get back to this view right here, and we'll come back to that view. Let's just catch up here in the chat. We put chat on the air here. And Thank you, Freddie. I appreciate as many likes as we can get tonight. TVJ says, I think the built-in teleprompter for the HyperDeck Shuttle HD is a killer feature. You're welcome. Yeah, maybe it's not a bad price for just a teleprompter. I've done a little research on teleprompters. I don't have really space where my main cameras are. They're right up against the wall. So a teleprompter for me is going to be a 7-inch monitor and right above the camera. And I'm going to continue looking into a monitor, not directly at the lens when I'm reading stuff like that. But I do most of the stuff from memory as well as I can, but I am a proponent for producing your videos with a teleprompter because then you can be short and to the point and not waste people's time. And I'll probably do a lot more of that once I get the shuttle in my possession. Nice to have you here tonight. It's just Vo. Does the HyperDeck Shuttle play any video format? Yeah, it plays different video formats. It records in different video formats, but I haven't had one yet to know if it's going to have the same issues with playing back video. You know, you're not going to really key with it and do animated graphics, though you can still do animated graphics using the chroma key feature. You just got to create all your graphics with a green background, render them 1080p if that's what you're streaming at, and then you're going to have to bring that into your upstream key and then use the chroma folder and take that green out, and then you could have it animated lower thirds, but that's going to take up that one key. So I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be like. I know it'll probably play back just like my Studio HD Plus, which will play anything that I put in it and that it can recognize. And I render everything ProRes because that seems to be the friendliest files for a HyperDeck. They all have to be the same frame rate. They all have to be the same size in order for it to read it. And that's just a broadcast standard, I think, that's been around for years, where whatever you're going to broadcast in that event should match what you're broadcasting at. So right now I'm broadcasting at 1080p at 2997 frames per second. And all my videos, I render intro and outro, or for the show, I render at that. I have a client, I'm rendering everything at 30p. So all the files I make for him for his HyperDeck all have to be at 30p, or they won't be seen when you put them in the HyperDeck. So keep that in mind. Good to see you, Chris. Have fun with my granddaughter. Good to have you here, Doug Force. Hey, Keith joined late, but we'll be catching up. Good to see you, Doug. Kevin Crawley, hi. Thanks for joining me. Freddie says hi to Kevin. Tony says this: wish the 1ME had at least 12 inputs, super source and encoder. I would have considered one. I totally agree with that, Tony. I think because if you come, man, I want to talk about this. You got me excited. There's two schools of thought here, and I want to maybe help you guys process this. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just mess you up. But as I thought about what they announced and knowing what was going on in those old rack-mounted units that Blackmagic Design sells, including the 8K that Matt Elliott at his venue has, which, you know, it's impressive when you see an 8K switcher there in a rack. You know, you get pretty excited about it. But the fact it doesn't encode, it doesn't record, it doesn't have super source, and a lot of things like that. At least I don't think it has super source. I might be incorrect in that. I know the 2ME has super source, the console, but I'm spoiled, right? I'm an ATEM Mini Extreme ISO user. Because of that, I have this desktop device that has 8 inputs. It has 4 upstream keys. It has 2 downstream keys. I have 2 DVEs. On top of that, I have 4 basic DVEs built into SuperSource. So I could have 6 things on the screen at the same time. Now, they won't just, you can't make those arrangements inside SuperSource. You can only do 4 boxes in SuperSource, or 2 on the screen, or 3 on the screen, or 1 on the screen. One of the things I love about Adam Tao's Mix Effect app is that I can just be in SuperSource, and I can just go to a 1-box layout and have this look. I'm still in SuperSource. I don't have to switch to any of my cameras. I'll just switch to a 1-box layout. So, but what you're saying is so important, because I would be a player too, but I'm coming from this camp, right? I obviously, my world that I come from, my history has been influenced, right, by people like Matt, all the different things in my world, right? So when you enter my world, you're influenced differently, and you have a different background, different upbringing. Maybe you like, you're from, like Freddie, from Venezuela. Or maybe you're like from Australia, and the culture, even though there's similarities and some of us may speak English, we even have different versions of English. I say that to say this: if you're an ATEM user and you've been in your studio and you've been using the mini and then the pro and then the pro ISO, and now you add in an extreme or extreme ISO, or that's all you've been watching, of course, we're going to want HDMI and SDI inputs. We're going to want SDI and HDMI outputs in case we have a long run. We're going to want to have SuperSource, and we're going to also want to have 4 upstream keys with DVEs built in. We're also going to want to be able to encode, and we're going to want to be able to stream. We really wanted to do everything that we don't get from an extreme ISO or a extreme at all. So, and again, there's limits to my extreme. I only have 8 inputs. So I got excited when I saw 10 inputs in their entry level. But when I started reading the fine print that morning, I didn't see anything about encoding. I didn't see anything about live streaming from it. You can't use the streaming bridge from it. And the streaming bridge is a tool I think people are going to start discovering. Like right now, they have a firmware update that you're going to be able to do Blackmagic Design camera control by broadcasting to the camera through a streaming bridge. So that will be interesting. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work, because I understand the signal has to go both ways, but I could be completely wrong. But anyway, so Tony, I agree. If it had encoding and you could stream from it and it had SuperSource, I might get it, use it with a another tool to be able to control all the different cameras and all the different monitors in my studio, and use their matrix. I can't think of the names right now, but great point. I agree with you, Tony. Kevin Crawley, it's good to see you again. Looks like you're being told hi from Tony. Yeah, and Freddie says he wish it had ISO recorded encoding. They spoiled us with the mini line. Absolutely spoiled us with the mini line. And it was the right move, in my opinion, because look at what happened in the world. So many people needed to be in their houses working from home and doing training and things like that. Lots of people left their offices to do consulting from home. That's multiple cameras. Like I could easily fill up 2 extreme ISOs, which would be great because I have clients that want me to record my training. And that means that I have to be able to send everything that I want to record to a ISO recording device, either a HyperDeck, or I'd have to run it through 2 extreme ISOs. And so, yeah, even my desktop needs to be recorded. My different cameras need to be recorded. I need to be able to show them the front of the HyperDeck when I'm training on the HyperDeck. I wish I could show them the menu system in the HyperDeck. So it's just, there's lots of reasons why we have been spoiled. Plus you can use the ATEM Mini all the way up to the Extreme ISO as a webcam. So you can use Zoom, you can use OBS, and you could actually use OBS for some of the graphics ability. Or if you don't have a HyperDeck, you could use OBS to bring a video into your recording. Like let's say you wanted to play a clip from one of your other videos inside a video, then you could cue that in OBS and then record in OBS and then do your whole presentation in your Extreme or your ISO, record all those tracks, and also record and bring a video into that. Or even in a meeting, you can bring a video in through OBS as an input. So there's so many things that Blackmagic did for us, updated the HyperDecks, I just wish there were some changes that they would do in the HyperDecks. And now you're going to have a desktop shuttle, which we're going to talk about before we go tonight. But anybody else have any input? Kevin Crawley says he likes the HyperDeck. Not sure. Maybe you're talking about the shuttle or the HyperDecks in general. Not sure about the ATEM Constellation. Good to have you back, Hank. We're just talking about the new announcement from Blackmagic Design. They got all these devices. This is what they're telling us about them. You've got all of these SDI outs in the back of the different consoles. I mean, there's lots and lots of SDI inputs and outputs. I'm sure you can integrate these with other devices that are in the Blackmagic Design hierarchy. And broadcast from them, but you are going to have to incorporate some HyperDecks, maybe some shuttles, maybe web presenter HDs. I mean, there's lots of things that you're going to have to do with these. And again, I think that's kind of Blackmagic's idea, is they just wanted to update their rack mount consoles to give you the ability for the SDI inputs and some of the SDI outputs to auto detect what you plug into them, which is a big issue. Aaron Precky's talked about his HD that he has in his studio and how he's using it in his live streams now to give him a place to bring his HyperDeck in. And I think he's got a couple other things plugged into it, so he doesn't have to take up his ISO recording tracks for his HyperDeck. And I get that. I have my 2 HyperDecks plugged in to 4 of my inputs, and I don't really need another recording of my HyperDeck whenever I'm playing in it. So I will probably now know for sure that I need to add a new extreme ISO to my studio and figure out exactly how to integrate that, because I'm convinced now that it's the right device. And I may even continue to use my ATEM Mini Pro for my 2 HyperDecks. So my HyperDeck, the challenge with that is I only have one HDMI output, so I will only be able to use one HyperDeck at a time, and I would not be able to bring in, without using SuperSource or a upstream key, I won't be able to bring those animated graphics in on my screen, because they need to come into 2 channels in the middle of my broadcast and be brought into a key, and that would be over in my ATEM Mini Pro. So lots of things to consider now. It is a crazy season to be alive and using Blackmagic Design's equipment, because again, great updates. Looks like a beautiful monitor on the front of the 40N to have in a studio, but again, with no encoding, no recording, no ISO recording. I don't know. You do get video playback, I think up to 400 frames and 200 frames in the smaller device, 400 in the 2 upper devices. You get 4 chroma keyers, 16-way multi-view, like we can see right now in our ATEM Mini Extreme and Extreme ISO. We have lots of adjustments that are multi-view, but again, 16-view multi-view is huge. The ATEM 2E has 12 3G SDI outputs. I mean, I want more outputs. That would be amazing. So I'm still chewing on these consoles. I mean, they really, really kind of fit somewhere in between what they had in the racks and now what they have on the desktop. And those of us that come from the ATEM Mini world, the desktop world, it's really, really difficult for us to process how we would use these. In fact, I don't think, TVJ, you're here. I mean, would this integrate at all in the world that you work in for live event broadcasting for sporting events? Let me know. Tony says these latest switchers release makes me really appreciate my ATEM Mini Extreme. I agree. TVJ says, I think the 2ME version is interesting from a price per feature perspective. Yeah, and I don't know if that integrates in your world. I would love to know that. Let me go back to me and the logo and put the chat on the screen here. Sorry, guys. So 2ME version looks very interesting for the price. I mentioned Tony's chat. These latest switcher releases make me appreciate my ATEM Extreme. TVJ also says this: I think leaving encoding out is probably a good idea long term, as transmission standards are always changing. Yeah, again, there's some good input from the broadcast side of it. Again, they're encoding at H.264, and there's 6 levels of encoding inside the ATEM Extreme and the ISO, as well as the Pro, ATEM Pro and Pro ISO. So again, you have 3 levels of encoding for live streaming, and then for recording, you have 3 levels of HyperDeck. Just like inside the HyperDecks, you have HyperDeck low, medium, and high, and those codecs are actually a bigger bit rate than you're going to see in the streaming codecs. So Tony says, interesting point, TVJ. And yeah, I agree with that. Kevin Crawley says that the scalers were important. I think from what I listened to, and again, I've never owned one of the rack-mounted devices, so I'm on the outside looking in. I was hoping for a rack-mounted unit to put in a mobile rig, and now that more and more options are coming up for me to go mobile, especially with mobile training, like I would love to be able to go into a venue that I'm doing an installation, and my first trip in there, take a couple cameras and my PC and a Stream Deck, and show them, model with them what's possible in my first day with them, so that they could begin to understand what they could get out of an ATEM Mini Pro ISO. And so I was kind of hoping for an 8 input. Didn't matter if it was going to be SDI or HDMI, but I would love to have had it a rack mountable, similar to the Extreme ISO, so I could go into a venue and give them a demo. But again, what they're going to choose is really what they're trying to do. If it's a broadcast venue, if it's a recording venue that's trying to stream live, a home studio, a church, a music venue, whatever it is, their use case is different. And now they have lots of options. So knowing how these devices could solve some of those options is super important, even for me. And I love the price point for 10 inputs that you can see in that entry-level Constellation HD. So and that's probably true. TVJ, no one who does professional broadcasting is using Blackmagic Design. So that's kind of sad, right? But evidently true. On that moment, we'll pause for a moment of silence for Blackmagic Design and the broadcast world. And wet my whistle at the same time. Well, I want to say 3 things. One, I want to take my hat off to Blackmagic Design, who continues to innovate and add new features and update old equipment. And they for sure updated their old equipment with this. Aaron Parecki said he was surprised it didn't do up to 4K. And I can understand that. I think 4K for lots of people is only just around the corner. As internet gets faster, as you can begin to bond things together. I mean, Aaron Parecki did a live stream yesterday with a new device that you can get for about $100 a month that can bond a number of different cell companies all at the same time. It's a part of the package. So go and look at Aaron Parecki's video live yesterday. That was very interesting, because think about that. If you could get a strong enough signal everywhere you went mobile with that device, and it's only $100 a month, and plus whatever you use, right? How many megabytes you upload, but all of those SIM chips are inside of it, then you could just be able to charge your client when you're doing those remote live streams, and possibly get away with doing 4K broadcasting very, very soon. So very interesting. My hat's off to Blackmagic Design for continuing to innovate. The ATEMs, that line is incredible. And we just want more, right? We want more channels, more outputs. And I would be excited for a 10 channel or a 12 channel Extreme ISO Plus, whatever they would call it. That would be amazing. Here's more from TVJ here. I got more things I want to say of my 3, but these products might be an attempt to go after software-based switchers like vMix, but offering a lot of inputs and outputs. Yeah, I can see that. That's a potential possibility. There is some competition with YOLO Box and the software-based tools that are out there. Plus, you got Adam Tao now working for Zoom. And so Zoom is going to have some new technology in it. Not sure what its impact's going to be. Can't talk about it. We haven't even talked about it lately. But I'm excited that you have maybe more features coming to those kind of apps. But I try to do as much as I can inside the Blackmagic Design world with HyperDecks and animated lower thirds and graphics and stingers and all that right here from my studio. vMix and OBS don't offer multiple outputs. I agree. I tried using Blackmagic gear at my TV station and it failed on me after about a week. Yeah, and I don't know what failed, but I'm using Blackmagic Design stuff, have now for 2 years. Here in the studio, multiple cameras. And I've had a couple link issues with my HyperDecks, which no one still knows what it is. I've had a couple glitches with my ATEM Mini Pro, maybe 3 times. I think maybe it's just getting old. Where all of a sudden it won't broadcast and I have to unplug it and plug it back in again. So again, I'm sure that the quality of the equipment when you get up to the level of TV broadcasting is a whole nother level. And I 100% understand that and respect that. So let me catch up. So my hat's off to Blackmagic Design for innovating. My hat's off for them bringing it to a development place so it fits on a desk. Because think about a lot of their equipment was either a camera or software or editing software or a device that would go in a rack. And now to have the things on the desk, including a HyperDeck Shuttle, I think is incredible. And I don't think we've seen the last of that. And then the third thing is continuing to do updates and firmware updates where they can, and to be able to listen as much as they have been listening to some of us give feedback. But again, they're not giving us everything that we want, because I think because we've been so spoiled, as Tony said earlier, we're wanting a lot. I want more. So, and I'm still trying to wrap my brain around how I can incorporate 2 extreme ISOs, because I think those 2 devices could do some stuff that would be pretty incredible. You could bring Super Source in to the other extreme as an input and literally have 8 boxes on the screen at the same time without using a single DVE. So you'd have to use a 2-box layout and have 4 on one side, or a 4-box layout, bring it into a DVE. I haven't even totally sorted all that out. So that's the third thing, is I just really believe that they are going to continue to innovate and continue to make a difference in the industry by all the updates that they're doing. And I think they pushed the old HyperDeck Studio Mini to the very end. And that's why they had to update to the new HyperDeck series to be able to bring them up to the standard. And I still think they have some firmware updates that they've got to do. And the other thing about the HyperDeck Shuttle HD is they made some updates to the firmware. You know, you can hold the button down and put it up on your monitor. You wouldn't want to do that in a live, but I love the fact that I can, think about it, I can bring the menu system up now. So when I'm training people, that alone for me is huge, to be able to display the menu system on the screen so I can do training with customers rather than holding my phone or having it on my mobile stand, tethering it through my Apple TV through streaming it using Filmic Pro. I could just now bring my HyperDeck up menu on the screen when I'm training on the HyperDeck menu. So again, I want to talk about the chat, and then I have something to say about the HyperDeck Shuttle that I think you guys will want to hear. Tony says, I've been thinking about doing a live stream using only bonded cellular. I have a TeraDeck Video Pro and several cellular modems, tested it using a private stream. It seems to have worked fine. Yeah, I think kind of this bonding technology has really got me curious, because of, you think about it, everybody has a certain amount of limit just in their homes for internet. And, you know what it costs sometimes if you want to get fast speed internet, and just imagine what that would be like in Venezuela. I'm not sure what that costs in Australia, but that's a pretty interesting thing, Tony. I would like to know more about the bonding stuff, and it looks like you're already diving into it. I think for remote bonding is going to be super important, and I think we're going to hear a lot more about that on Aaron Parecki's channel, and some of the other channels like John Barker here to record in the near future. Though, again, you got to be doing remote like Aaron's doing right now at NAB to really see the value of it. And he did a live stream from a company that's introducing a device that bonds a bunch of different cellular companies. And then when you go to another country, they're going to be able to get those chips in that device. And it all comes in one device, and you can get it, I think, for a whole month or more. I don't know how that's going to work. They said they don't want to be a leasing company. Like you can lease lenses for a short period of time, rent them. They don't want to be a rental company, so it'll be interesting to see that. But I'll be watching that device real closely, and I don't have a clue what the name of that device is. TVJ says, I tried using one of their SDI audio embedders, and it stopped embedding audio after a week, but I love their gear for non-mission critical broadcast. Well, yeah, and audio inputting is one of those things that we don't talk much about on the channel, but I ran into that issue right away because I wanted to be able to record into my HyperDeck, and I use my Rodecaster Pro, and if you're a live venue, you're going to be using a console. And anytime you are doing these live mixes, you're coming from a console, you're coming out with your stereo mix, and to get that to sync up in your cameras is an issue. So Roland makes a device that not only embeds audio, but it also gives you the ability to sync in audio and video, and then you can adjust the frames. I think it's only 4 frames up in the video and down, and I think you also can adjust the audio up 4 frames, which is like a second depending on what frame rate you're at. And so those devices, I think Blackmagic Design's 6G device works great for me. I use it in my studio. Now I have an HDMI input in my new HyperDeck Studio HD Plus, so I don't need to do that anymore. I can come directly from my camera into my HyperDeck and then embed the audio in my camera. So I could just come out into my camera like a microphone from my Rodecaster Pro. But if I want to have multiple cameras and multiple microphones, then I have to go through my Rodecaster Pro and come out stereo into somewhere and get that audio embedded in the video. So if you have a video in your HyperDeck, it already has audio embedded. But if you're recording to a HyperDeck and you don't have a microphone on the camera, then you got to get your audio inside the HyperDeck, and it does not have an audio input. So you have to bring it in before it gets into the HyperDeck. Now, the new HyperDeck Studio HD Plus and Up has a headphone input or output, so you can listen, and it has a little speaker built in. So if you don't have headphones in, you can have the little speaker play back the audio, but it does not have an audio input. And it would be cool to see a HyperDeck that has a embedder for audio in it. And I'm sure the broadcast world would love to see that as well. So, okay. We're going to wrap up here pretty soon, but I want to close tonight by saying that I think these devices are interesting. I think Blackmagic Design they played their hand early. Let me just tell you this. Because of the ATEM Mini, right? The ATEM Mini came out and everybody was just blown away. Because you had the scalers built into it. You had 4 inputs and you could buy it for what, $4.95 at the time, US? Well, there was nothing else like it. And it was on the desk, and you could come out of it with a USB cable and use it as a webcam. So it was an incredible device. It had 2 audio inputs. It had an HDMI out, and they figured you would take it that HDMI out right into a recorder, right? So, or out of it, instead of using the USB-C, maybe into your web presenter. before you had the HD. Who knows what they were thinking, but they came out with this device, and then what did they do? It was desktop. People purchased them. Then they came out with a Pro that encoded, right? It streamed. It then could stream, record, encode. So now you have the ability to record the HDMI output, and then they added multi-view. And so then they came out with the ISO. So all these things, plus all those tracks, could be recorded, and you could get an XML file, bring it into DaVinci Resolve, also have a recorded media player stills there, and you could make adjustments and even replace, if you had Blackmagic Design cameras, you could replace those ISO files recorded at 1080p high, right, or HyperDeck high, and replace them with the raw files from your Blackmagic camera with just some little tweaks in DaVinci Resolve. So if you're a DaVinci Resolve user, wow, that was just mind-boggling. And we were already spoiled. Then they come out with the Extreme and Extreme ISO. I think this, guys, I'm going to close with this tonight. I think this HyperDeck Shuttle HD is just the beginning. Think about it. The Mini, why would you go on the desk with a HyperDeck that doesn't do keying and does teleprompting and video playback and video recording and displaying on the screen the menu so that you can make adjustments and not look at that tiny little that tiny little screen in your HyperDeck? Now it doesn't have a screen, so your monitor becomes your screen for making adjustments. I just think that they're coming out with another one. I think it's just a matter of time. So do the math. How long was it from the time the ATEM Mini came out till you saw the ATEM Mini Pro and then the Pro ISO? If I remember right, I think it was like fall and then early spring, the Pro was released, and then late spring, early summer, I think the ISO came out, and we were like, I was going, I got my Pro and now I want an ISO. And then about the time I was getting used to my ATEM Mini Pro and really starting to start doing videos on my HyperDeck, guess what came out? The Extreme. And then shortly after that, the Extreme ISO. And I'm so glad I didn't pull the trigger on an Extreme, and I have an ISO now. So guys, I really believe that this HyperDeck Shuttle is the introduction of a number of HyperDecks for those of us that have been spoiled in the ATEM Mini world. I think we're also going to get spoiled in the HyperDeck world pretty soon, because it's no longer a rack mount issue. It's now a desktop issue, and to incorporate that big knob and to make it be able to be brought into my videos, my multi-input monitors, I think it's great. I'm now going to have to get a little matrix to switch into one of my monitors from my HyperDeck Studio HD Plus, my HyperDeck Studio Mini, and my new Shuttle, so that I can display those on the screen anytime I want. Right now I have a 2 input and 1 output, so I can change what's in my left top monitor in my BenQ with a push of a button. I'm going to need a triple matrix now. So anyway, guys, tell me what you think about the Shuttle being just the first release in a number of releases in the next 9 to 10 months. Thank you for joining us, New Rise. I appreciate you subscribing and joining us tonight. I hope you enjoy these streams. We have the regular live stream at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, which is more my tech world, even though tonight we're having a post show with Tech World. And then the post show is even more personal stuff. You might get a behind the scenes look at my house. You may even find out about my new Batmobile 2022 display, which I'll have in the studio next week in my live stream, as well as my post show, so you guys can see the actual finished product. But good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. He says, I love Blackmagic because I think they really listen to us home-based creatives, live content creators. Yeah, I think we're where a lot of money's coming from Blackmagic Design. So I think they are paying attention. I wish that their tech support was a little bit more intuitive, but they are great. I just haven't had the greatest experience solving some of the issues that I'm having. And I have a video on my channel that says, what is this? I think, what's this about? And that's about the IP address disconnect between HyperDecks and the control software. So if you haven't watched that, check it out. I Pre-ordering my HyperDeck Shuttle HD this week. Can't wait to have it. Don't forget, it does not do keying. So if you want to do motion graphics and you want to bring in the video channel and then the key channel, and if you don't know what that is, do I still have a still image here I can bring up on the screen? I do. So I'm going to drop this. Let's go like this. Let's go be in my desktop, and let me change this super source input. Oh, even with mix effects, it takes sometimes longer than I want it to. Input to, I want to be my desktop. No, I want it to be my media player 1. And then let me drop this in here. So this is from Blackmagic Design site, and that looks like that because I didn't drop it in there. I put it in here in my key. So I turned off my key number 1, and now it's in SuperSource. So this is right from Blackmagic's site. So you see these two SDI outs. That's what you normally see in the back of a HyperDeck. But when they came out with the new HyperDecks in July, the new HyperDeck HD does not have a key channel. It has one of those SDI outs, the A, but it doesn't have the B. And the new HyperDeck Shuttle, it has even less. And I don't know if yes, I do. Pop that up on the screen. You can see in the back of that, it only has HDMI in, HDMI out. So you can play videos out, and you can do a green screen animated graphic and chroma key out the green, but it does not have a alpha channel or a main channel and A and B channel, which the B is always the key, and that's the cutout. And if you look at this picture again, you can see one of these pictures is just, it's white, because that cuts out the color part of that graphic. And when it flies across the screen, you get crisper edges, you get better transparencies. Because if you put a transparent graphic over a shirt like mine, it's going to moire and look horrible. So you got to put a white background behind it. And that's really what a key does. That's why you get crisper transparencies and you get better graphics. And I'm actually going to do a Stinger macro video release here in about the next 3 or 4 days. And then tonight at 6:30, in about 10 minutes, my new ATEM Mini Pro getting started video is going to be released. And if you add that with my HyperDeck series, you should be able to really learn how to use the ATEM Mini Pro and ATEM Mini Pro ISO and even the ATEM Mini even better in your studio for live streaming. It is very in-depth. It's 1 hour and 20 minutes. And then the video I'm going to do on making macros for a Stinger gives you some history on the HyperDecks, and it jumps into training on how to make a macro for a Stinger for your live stream or for your broadcast. So I hope you guys will enjoy that. So that's my little lesson about the HyperDeck Shuttle. Don't buy it if you want to do motion graphics without using a green background and using your chroma keyer, because it does not do that 2-channel input pre-multiplied key like the other HyperDecks do. So again, the HyperDeck Studio Mini, the older versions and up, all had that A and B channel. There's even some Thunderbolt devices that Blackmagic Design carries that you can come out of your laptop, Thunderbolt to them, and then send your graphics from ProPresenter and the other tools that you have, and then come out of it an A and B channel into your ATEM, and you'll be able to do key graphics from that device. But the new HyperDeck HD, Studio HD that came out in July, as well as the new Shuttle, does not have a SDI out for key or even an SDI out in the Shuttle, period. So it's all HDMI in, 1, and HDMI out, which is meant to be a monitor. And you can use it as a splitter into a monitor and into your show, and then don't put the graphics on the screen from the Shuttle when you don't want to play a teleprompter or the graphics of the menu system on the screen and just play a video. So you can use it for a teleprompter, you can use it to display the menu system for training, and you can use it to play back graphics, but you got to do all of that out of one HDMI out. And you can also record to it, and it's got even updated codecs, and I think it actually has an updated menu system. So can't wait to get my hands on one and see. So, okay, so let's finish up some chat here, and then we're going to wrap this up tonight. Let me just go back to camera 2 here, get back to my macros so we can get the logo back on the screen here. So let's finish this up. Tony says this, I agree with Keith. It's all about marketing and getting us consumers to always want the next big thing. Yeah. And Tony, you know, if you get a shuttle or don't get a shuttle, that's up to you, buddy. But because I do so much training and I'm going to recommend it to my clients as a playback tool for people that don't want to do motion graphics, I'm going to get it so I can do some training on it here on the channel as well as for my clients. New Rise TV, I have the HyperDeck Studio, HyperDeck Mini HD, ATEM Mini Pro ISO, and the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, and love them all. I really don't need Alpha for now, but will in the near future. Yeah, so get a Studio, HyperDeck Studio HD Plus. It's got better buttons on it. It's got headphone out, so you can really make sure your sound levels are great before you play those videos. And it's got an HDMI input and an HDMI output. It's got time code sync built into it. So does the new HyperDeck Studio HD if you want to sync it together with your other HyperDeck. So there's lots of advantages in that new series, and they have a 4K model. And I really believe that we're going to see some of that same hierarchy in the HyperDeck shuttles to come in the future. So think about it. HyperDeck Shuttle HD. What's the next one going to be called, and what features will be in that puppy for $695? So anyway, Kevin Crawley, here's what you have to say. Back to what New Rise said. If you guys didn't see that, I don't know if it was on the screen or not. Kevin Crawley says they may still bring out a new ATEM this year. Nice if it was rack mount with super source and 5 HDMIs, 5 SDIs. Just a thought. Yeah, I don't know what Blackmagic Design is thinking in that regards. I'm trying to take in all the information, right? And if we had a focus group and we put it all on whiteboards, right? Maybe someday we need to have a 2-hour stream Zoom meeting, and we could do a focus group and really kind of maybe get some ideas into what Blackmagic Design is thinking. Because I think a lot of what they're doing is on the table. I mean, we've seen the camera changes. DaVinci Resolve has gone into this whole new group ability to cloud edit together and even talk to each other and see each other's faces. So it's kind of like a hybrid of Zoom and GoToMeetings, all that stuff wrapped up into one. And very expensive to get some of these cloud servers, but dedicated cloud servers so you could work together inside a building. And even a less expensive version without all the storage for those of us that want to jump in there as well with a small group. Think about what they're doing and how much time they must have spent on that, rewriting DaVinci Resolve to incorporate all of that. And then now they have this whole new registration process for the new version of DaVinci Resolve. What's it going to be like with the new HyperDecks, the new ATEM rack-mounted units, the Constellations, and how are they going to continue to progress as well as the shuttles progress? I think if we really wrote down all the things that they've done and the influences with what the world has gone through the last couple of years, I think we could really kind of get a better understanding of what they're going to release and why they're going to release it. Because they don't want to make a Web Presenter HD, which they came out last year with, obsolete. It's a encoder and a streamer, and the HyperDeck HD Plus was updated, so it's a playback device as well as a recording device. Then they had the the Studio HD for just recording for people that just want to ISO record from those other devices. It's less money than a HyperDeck Studio Mini was when it was out there, I believe, but it did lose the alpha and key channel from the back, and but it added some other timecode features. So a lot has been happening, and Blackmagic Design has updated cameras, and you can see venues like this church that was on with me in my live show, Matt Elliott, who also is a sound a guru in the local region because he's mixed for large sound companies as well as his own sound company, and now he's doing all the mixing in this venue. There's lots of uses for these devices, especially with all of these venues that have lost attendees, concerts and artists that really want to go live and start monetizing online through different social media platforms. So quite fascinating. I think more businesses are going to dive in to be able to do broadcasting to their employees and do private live streaming that way. And we'll be using these devices. So I think that's why the bridge came out, streaming bridge, so you could broadcast across the world to another venue and do a training in this store, training in that store on their bridge, training in that store on their bridge. I mean, there's just lots of uses for these devices, or inside a building. So being able to have a board in one room and other group of people in another room receiving the same broadcast inside the building from a streaming bridge. Instead of going live, you just stream to it. And you can do that in ATEM Mini Pro. You can do that in the web presenter, ATEM Mini Pro ISO, Extreme ISO, all broadcast to the bridge. And they just did a firmware update that adds some camera control via a bridge, which is a whole nother ball of wax. Well, that's it for tonight, guys. We have gone for over an hour in the post show. I will tell you, Christopher and I and Dominic, we all have our Batmobile done, and you guys saw it in the post show. We did go out with the mobile Pocket 6K Pro rig that Matt brought with us, and we did walk out to the table. I do have the sound effects right here for that device that I will be playing next week in the post show, and in my little Bluetooth speaker, so you'll be able to not only see the Batmobile display, but you'll be able to hear it as well. So that'll be next week. And we'll have an update from NAB next week in our live stream, as well as other things that I didn't cover this week because of the announcements in NAB. It'll be exciting to see what else comes out in the next week at that event, or the rest of this week at that event. So thank you guys so much for joining me live. New Rise says, this was very interesting live, Keith. Thanks for the wisdom and fun geeking talks. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the geeking talks. I have a friend that tuned in a few weeks ago, and he said I was talking over his head a mile. So I apologize for that. If I ever talk over what you know or use words you don't understand, feel free to ask me in the chat. I follow you from Guadalupe. Thanks for a lot for the excellent live. Thank you, TV97.net, for subscribing, for being here tonight. If I haven't said hi in the past to you, or if this is the first time I said hi, consider me honored that you're here. I wish we were face-to-face. It's a lot more fun to talk to people face-to-face, and I don't have to talk as much in those kind of meetings. And one day we will have something here on the channel, hopefully this year, where we actually invite people into a Zoom conference. But it would be an invitation only. So if you want to be a part of that group, you'll at least have to go over to lifejourneyproductions.com and subscribe. I do a free 1-hour consult, and I will meet with you on a Zoom call just to get acquainted if you need any technical support for an hour for free. And then I actually do consulting on the side. But also those people would be the ones that would get an invite to a Zoom call, and I would also talk about it here and let you know how to subscribe to it. And then we would do that Zoom event, and it would be fun to do that and be able to see your faces while we're on live. Freddie says, thanks, Keith. Quick Text says, I like it. Hit like for Keith. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for watching last week's video or sharing it and liking it. It is blowing up on the HyperDeck Shuttle. I hope that my unboxing video will be just as exciting. I'm number 21 at the DEV store in Washington, so hopefully they'll get their shipment soon, and hopefully they'll get enough for me to be in the first shipment. I waited too long to be number 6 like I was before on the HyperDeck Studio HD Plus, and I got that from the dev store as well. This is not sponsored by them. Thanks, Keith. Good night, everyone. Kevin Crawley, always a good time. Freddie, have a great night, everyone. And New Rise TV says that will be awesome. Freddie says, good night, everyone. Thank you, guys. Have a great week. I can't wait to see what's going to take place and what our conversation will be next week. I am Keith. This is Life Journey Production Studios, and I will see you guys tonight at 6:30 as my video releases right now, I think, in the United States, Pacific Standard Time. ATEM Mini Pro getting started, hour and 20 minutes, available for you now for free. I'll see you guys later. Bye now.